A lot's being said about this Damian Lillard situation that he could end up with Boston. What are you hearing about that? Would he be at all interested? Are the Celtics interested? How would that work?
As my colleagues at The Athletic said, the Celtics are one of many teams with interest. Um, they're in a weird situation right now, obviously, because they don't really have any money to spend, and money probably won't be the number one factor for him. He's going to get paid a lot of money from the Bucks anyway after they stretched his contract, and so that might not be a factor in his decision. If it is, it could rule out the Celtics. We've already seen Luke Cornett walk out the door because Celtics couldn't offer him as much money as he got from San Antonio. Al Horford could soon leave as well, as Brad Stevens hinted yesterday in his press conference. Celtics they have 15 standard contracts right now. They don't have a roster spot. But there are a lot of factors that he'll need to look at. And then the other thing is he's turning 35 in 2 weeks. As great as he's been, as fantastic as he's been as a shooter, one of the best, most dangerous shooters of all time, he's coming off a torn Achilles. He's an older guard who never played much defense in the first place. Brad Stevens has always preferred two-way players. So I don't think it's a perfect fit, but if you can get him for cheap, of course, then yeah, you go and acquire Damian Lillard. But I because of all those reasons, I don't think it's a home run, and we'll see what happens.
That was one of the big surprises at yesterday's press conference, Jay, is that Brad really is either unwilling or unable to trade more contracts out to give himself the money he needs to add other players like Sam Hauser. It seems like Hauser is a very tradable contract, but it looks like he's staying put. That was the real shocking thing.
Yeah, look, and they don't want to dump contracts just to dump contracts. Obviously, you have to do some painful stuff to get under the second apron, which they still haven't done yet, but they can do with some very minor maneuvering at this point. They're about $332,000 above the second apron. The bigger question is whether they can get out of the luxury tax entirely, and that would have real benefits, because if you get out of it and stay out of it for 2 straight years, you reset the repeater tax, and the repeater tax is the big, really penalizing tax that you get if you've been in the tax for too many years, and it's boring and all that stuff. But I think if they can do that without, having to dump too many salaries and trade too many picks to dump those salaries, then they'll want to do that. But right now it seems as if they haven't found the right prices to dump those contracts, and Brad is giving off every indication that he's okay with going into the season with the roster similar to what it is right now. And I think that would be a little disappointing to the Celtics, I think, to not get out of the tax, but we'll see. Bill Chisholm hasn't given them a mandate to get out of the tax, and right now they're finding the cost just too high to dump those contracts.
So Al Horford, according to Brad Stevens yesterday, is not going to be back next season. You lost Luke Cornett, and you signed Luka Garza, who is not a starting center. Who are the bigs on this team if this is the roster he's going to go with this coming fall?
Yeah, it's going to be Nimi. It's going to be Luka Garza. Aren't you guys excited? David Tillman?
Yeah. I remember, Garza was a big-time star at Iowa. What are we talking about
National
here?
Player of the Year.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's played like 900 minutes in his NBA career. So, yeah, that front court is totally unproven guys. And the talent drain they've had is just really, really going to be painful for them. They've already lost, including Jason Tatum, who will miss, if not the whole year, most of it. They've lost 2 other starters in Kristaps Porzingis and Drew Holiday. They've lost Luke Cornett and Al Horford, 2 of their better big men. They've lost a ton of defensive talent. They've lost all their rim protection. They've lost every veteran big man they actually played, and they're going to be seeing what Nimi and Luka Garza can do. Will that be perfect? I don't think so. But they like what Garza has done in limited time, and in Minnesota, he never really got a chance. He was behind Rudy Gobert. He was behind Karl Towns and Julius Randle. He was behind Naz Reid. Like, it was just a very, very tough situation for him to earn any playing time. When he's been on the court, he's been super productive. One of the better offensive rebounders in basketball. Really fills it up on a per-minute basis as a scorer. Defense, definitely an issue, and their defense, like, as things stand right now, their defense is going to take a huge, huge hit. But yeah, get ready for the Nemi and Luka Garza era, boys.
The defense is something that I think Joe Mazzulla has been particularly protective of going back a couple of seasons now when it looked like they weren't playing as intensely as they could. So how do you think he's going to handle that if, in fact, he has dealt a blow personnel-wise where they're going to be hampered on defense? How does he react to that? How does he respond?
Yeah, this is going to be a big test for his coaching, I think, because they've had a top 5 defense in each of his 3 seasons, but they've also had some of the best defensive personnel in the league. The Derek White, Drew Holiday backcourt was just phenomenal. They've had, all their bigs were just great defenders. And now it's not going to be like that. They're going to have to play younger guys. They might have to play Jordan Walsh, Baylor Shireman, Hugo Gonzalez. Anthony Simons, if he stays on the roster, is like one of the worst defenders in basketball, has graded out that way by some of the advanced metrics throughout his career in Portland. So it's going to be a huge test for his coaching. I do think he's a great defensive coach. The numbers bear that out, and the way guys talk about him bear that out. But yeah, I mean, he's going to have a lot of holes to cover that he's never had to cover before.
If this roster winds up being the roster that Joe Mazzulla has to coach, is this a playoff team?
So I would lean no, just because it feels like they're 1 or 2 injuries from the whole thing toppling over. I think if they're healthy, if everybody's available, then yeah, this group will make the playoffs. This group would have a chance to surprise some people. You still have some really good proven players with Derek White, Jaylen Brown. I would throw Peyton Pritchard into that mix. Sam Hauser's done a lot of good things for them. Simons, though I just ripped apart his defense, he's been a very good offensive player. Niang's been part of some really good teams. He knows how to play a role. But their front court has a chance to be really bad. And
it's an interesting way of phrasing it, Jay.
Yeah.
No nonsense there.
They got a chance to be awful.
Yeah.
Chance to be really, really bad. And then it just feels like, if you lose Jaylen Brown, if you lose Derek White for a significant portion of time, then you're playing really young guys. Your front court's not going to be able to bail you out with rim protection, everything like that. So it just feels like this is a very fragile group right now.
All right, and is there anything that they can do in the meantime? Are there any fixes, or are you playing for next year?
You're just kind of playing for next year, and that was clear by the second apron caused them to trade away 2 starters for guys that that they then tried to flip and are still considering flipping for further salary relief. And so this hasn't been about maximizing next season. They were always going to have to shed some payroll because of the way the collective bargaining agreement is. But the day Jason Tatum went down, things changed a little bit, and you have to change your perspective and look at next season as Brad Stevens, he called it a retooling year. And yeah, they're taking a step back to try to position themselves better for the future. But I think next year it's not going to be like it has been these last 3 years.
If you like that clip, check out more videos from Toucher and Hardy here. For more Celtics analysis and opinion, hit this playlist. And for all the latest from the Sports Hub, download the app at 985thesportshub.com.